Hey guys, Whitney here. Thanks so much for joining me today. I'm going to give it just a couple of minutes as people file in the room. Apologize for the being late by a minute. I was in a different room. So anyways, glad we are connected this morning. I am filling in for Dan this week, and we are going to tackle the 4-phase investor call process. So for those of you who are actively raising on deals, hopefully I can give you a process that is highly effective, but also leverages technology to help reduce headaches, streamline your time. And then for those of you who are more on the passive side of things, you actually can get an understanding of what a really good investor onboarding and call process looks like. So let's go ahead and dive in. Again, we're going to tackle the 4-phase investor call process that actually helps win over investors. And then if you're an operator, it helps save you time and headaches, a lot of headaches, okay? You're going to learn some of the common mistakes and landmines that actually turn investors away, can really turn them off. And then just how to leverage technology to make this all streamline and scale your business. But if you guys don't know me before, if you haven't joined one of the Passive Investing Made Simple masterclasses that I do on Wednesday, I'm Whitney. I am the Director of Investor Education here at PassiveInvesting.com. And this is me and my crazy crew. This is the whole reason why I participate in active real estate, but also passive real estate. I'm very passionate about helping investors understand and leverage the power of passive real estate. I started off investing in real estate in 2002, very actively, living, flipping, and house hacking. And it took me years to figure out that if I actually wanted to retire off of real estate income, I needed to figure out how to take all that active income and turn it into passive income. And so naturally, I started off like most people do in single family investing, scaled up a sizable portfolio of over 30 units in a single family and small multifamily, as well as continuing to do about 10 flips out of state a year to recapitalize my investments. But again, what I realized is I had another job. I hadn't really figured out how to take myself out of the equation and build a business in a scalable portfolio. And that's, I was burning the candle at both ends, 5 times in the middle. And I really wanted to stay home and spend more time with my family. So that's when my husband and I really sat down and looked, and we're like, hey, we need to build a more scalable business, one with processes, scale with each transaction that we close on, and really leverages our time. And so that's when we transitioned into multifamily real estate investing, both actively and passively. And we've been able to scale up a very sizable portfolio of over 6,000 units that way. But what I've learned in this process is, working on the active side, is how to build processes that can grow the company and actually win over investors, okay? And it comes from a very natural closing and sales process. And that result of building these processes has helped me co-syndicate over 26 deals in 2 years, 3x an investor list with a private equity group, and then increase the investor capacity 19-fold. And we have utilized the exact same process he sees here at PassiveInvesting.com. And as you can see, this is what has allowed us to scale our internal metrics to over 929 million portfolio value. That's just on the multifamily side. We have just as much on the self-storage side. And then of course we have our real estate debt and our car washes. Again, just really connect and create a happy experience for over 1,700 investors. And that's what I want to help you do today, is identify what the 4 phases of the investor call process are and what key metrics or key points need to be included in each one of those metrics. Now, guys, I'm going through at a very kind of 30,000 foot view level. I understand that you might have some questions on a more granular level. Make sure that you found your Q&A box, your chat box. Drop your questions in there. I will do my best to answer what questions that I can in the stream of today's presentation, and then stick around for a few minutes after and clean up what I can. All right. So really, there's a 4-phase call process. Okay. Now you see the little girl holding up 5 fingers. Okay. And that's because that 5th means you go back to step 1. Okay. So there's actually a 5th step in here, is that you're going to continue to cycle this with your referrals. And if you do a really good job with your initial investor, this process should be able to repeat itself over and over and over again. So if you attended my MFIN talk in January, you understand that I went through multiple systems that you need to have in place for your entire investor process, like the overarching onboarding process for your investor. This is just one part of that kind of marketing process, which is the get to know you phase. We're going to dive deep on this. So phase number one, we're going to talk about what needs to happen before the call in the pre-call phase. Then we're going to talk about what needs to happen actually during the call, that in the conversation, and then immediately right after. And then we're going to talk about the post-call, what needs to happen in the post-call phase, and then what you need to have in place, some ideas that you need to have going on, operating continuously in the background to nurture that investor. Now, why is having a process so important? It's because in marketing, the theory is, a lot of data points to that it takes 7 very high touches, interactions with your brand before somebody will buy or somebody will invest. Okay, this is no different than if you're like trying to buy an iPhone or a car or, some other like high ticket item, or if you're trying to secure like a, $50, $100, $500,000 check from an investor, that investor is probably going to be touching your brand at least 7 times before they are open to writing a check for you. Okay. Now, in this process that I show you, we actually are going to provide 4 very high touches, at least for that investor. So if you knock out this get to know you phase part, I mean, you can really collapse time and, get that investor from curious about your brand to actually investing very quickly. All right. Keep in mind, when you're in this get to know you phase, this is your opportunity to lead the investor through an experience that is uniquely yours. Okay, guys, a lot of people do syndications, multifamily, self-storage. A lot of people do value add or development, right? There are many companies that probably do very similar things to what you do, but only you can execute on your brand. You are uniquely you. So this is that experience that you're creating for the investor. Okay, they are going to fall in love with the experience. Okay, scientifically, stats-wise, if you're keeping stats on your investors that actually invest in your deals, you're probably going to find that investors who get on calls with you or your team are going to invest more and more often than ones that you have not spoken with. Okay, so this is a worthwhile time. Now, does it mean that you have to do it? No, I'm going to show you a part of that process where you can actually delegate parts of this investor call process. And again, if you have a very streamlined, repeatable process, one where you can leverage technology, you can lighten the load for yourself and really standardize the experience and not sacrifice any of that experience for your investors. So let's talk about the pre-call process. Okay, think of this. This is where you're attracting the client. It's like a magnet. Okay, so it really starts with, where is that person landing on your website? So the landing page, so to speak. Okay, we've talked about all the other systems on how to get them to that page, but where are they going to be, quote unquote, applying for your investor club? Now, I know when you're just starting out, it's very, minimal viable product. Just get a page up there and start, directing people to a form. That's great. Over time, you're going to want to build this out and create a very compelling message, and possibly even include a lead magnet that they can go to that landing page and get. All right. So again, enticing them, attracting them into your brand, something that's just uniquely you. Now, for technology wise, for this landing page, you can use things like Active Campaign or ClickFunnels. Those are, kind of 2 things that can be really great at collecting these leads. Now, you're going to have a form on that landing page. All right. So, and that form, it needs to be a complete form capture of, again, collecting their name, their information, their SEC compliant statistics. So, you know, are they accredited? How much money are they looking to invest in the next 3, 6, 9 months? What is their occupation? Okay, those type of metrics. And if you can collect it up front, that allows you to qualify the investor on the call and potentially just check those items on the call. That way you can move deeper in the conversation. Okay, it makes your conversation, when you actually get on the phone with each other, a deeper one, where you can focus on the experience, not so much of like confirming all your SEC compliant checkboxes. Now, you can utilize that. I suggest taking the active campaign form and embedding that on your landing page. You can do that through ClickFunnels as well, but if you do it with active campaign, now you can create some automations behind that and move people to different lists based on the information they've given you. Now, you've got your landing page, you've got your form on the landing page, okay? Make sure you redirect your form to go directly to your calendar so they can schedule. All right, so within 30 seconds, they should be able to find you, resonate with your message, fill out a form, and go right to the schedule and get on your schedule or on your team's schedule. And then you can use this by getting an embed code from Calendly, Meet Me So, or even HubSpot. HubSpot's a little expensive, so you can do this very well with Calendly or Meet Me So. All right, now, even though the person has already gotten that information, you know, maybe your compelling message, your ebook, your lead magnet off the page already, they've scheduled time, make sure that you send a robust reminder email with this information all in it. Okay, so this is actually going to be a 2-part reminder. One, stating that, hey, if you haven't done that so already, make sure that you digest this content that I just gave you, that you scheduled your call, but also remind them exactly when their call is going to be. And again, you can set up these systems automatically in Calendly, Meetly So, or HubSpot. Now, in the call phase, this is really kind of where the rubber meets the road, right? This is the first time that this investor more than likely is meeting somebody verbally or face-to-face if you choose to do video. And it's very important that you have a standardized script. Now, everybody's going to deliver this script differently in your investor relations team. Okay, some people, and that's fine. You want them to, because you want the investor relations team's personality, their individual personalities to shine. Okay, again, but you're controlling the conversation by giving them a script. So, and we're going to talk about the script here in a second. So, guys, I'm not going to leave you hanging. In this script, okay, team is going to confirm the details on that application form. Okay, anybody can enter any information they want on the application form. So it's very important when you get on the phone with the investor that you're leading them through a series of questions, and that you're either indirectly verifying all that information in the application form or directly if the investor didn't offer it. And I'll give you a tip here in just a second. Part number 3, you want to make sure that your team understands has a standardized process for taking notes. Now, my preferred way of doing this is an active campaign, because you can just open up a note right in that investor's file. And when you do that, anybody else that jumps on a phone call with them later can open up all the other notes before and see what's happened in those conversations and what's been discussed. Okay, so again, it helps build that know, like, and trust factor with investors. Okay, because I can hop on a phone. This happened to me last week. I hopped on a phone with an investor. I saw they spoke with somebody else on our team a couple weeks ago, and I was just really like, hey, what's happened in the past 2 weeks? Did you close on that house that you mentioned that you were going to close on to, with Taylor, our other team member? I was able to kind of let them know that we knew about them, we were invested in them, we cared about them. Okay, also, if you've discussed a particular item, a particular transaction, you can put that in there and make notes. That way, somebody else on the team can pick it up and continue to service the investor. Now, as you scale, another piece of technology you might want to consider implementing is having an 800 number for the investor relations team. That way, an investor or a Google Voice number, that way there's one number for the investor relations team. And I like CallRail for this actually, because then based on the investor dialing in that number, you can then, they can hit the first available team member immediately. So that is something to think about if you really start largely scaling your business. Now let's get into the actual call script. Okay. Again, this is where you get to create an experience for the investor. This is the whole point of being on the call, is to complete that know, like, and trust triangle. Now the calls tend to go over time sometimes. So how can you control this? And you do this by pre-framing the call. So when you get on the call, you can say, hey, thanks so much for getting on the phone with me today. I really want to have the opportunity to get to know you better, your investing goals, any background you might have in real estate. And, after we get those questions answered, let's, tackle the questions that you have about our business and our brand and what we're doing. And then we can wrap up with best ways to work together. Sound good? I actually say those words to get the investor invested with me on what the agenda is going to be. So, we're agreeing at the very beginning that these are the top things we're going to touch base on throughout the call. And if we need to schedule more time later, we can, but this will allow you to keep a standardized call flow throughout the day. Okay. The goal number two with the call script is to build a rapport. Now, I just delivered the pre-frame. I will follow up. I'll lead the investor right in. So tell me a little bit about yourself and your what passive investing can do for you and your background in real estate. Okay, I'm getting them to tell me about themselves, and I'm looking for something in that conversation that I can latch onto and identify with. Right? Maybe it's they've invested in single families before and they don't know how to scale to multifamily. Maybe it's, we both have kids that are the same age. Maybe we both have a short-term rental in Northwest Arkansas. Anything that I can identify in that conversation to where I can build rapport and likeness with the investor. Now, the third part of the call script, in that build rapport phrase, I'm also looking for them to give me clues about to confirm those items on the confirmation form that they applied to the investor club with. Okay, so I'm looking for them to confirm their occupation, if they're an accredited investor, how much they're looking to invest, what are their investing goals. I'm looking for them to confirm those details for me. Now, if they don't, I just directly ask them, hey, listen, part of this call process is for me to really understand your investing goals very succinctly. Tell me more about what you do for, occupation. Where are you as far as investing for the next 3 to 6 months? Are you an accredited investor? You just got to get those questions off the plate. But if you built rapport, that's very easy for them to tell you. The fourth part of that call script, I'm actually transitioning and asking them, what can I tell them about our company? Okay. Now, I phrase this way for two reasons. Okay. One, if they've done their homework and did all the pre-call information that I sent to them, I want to honor them that they have looked at that information. Two, if they've already invested in a number of syndications, they probably don't need me to go in depth about the syndication process. They need me to tell them about our company specifically. So I'm really trying to suss out, where are they in that experience, kind of in their experience. Are they in the syndication 101, or are they more at 301? And where do I need to fill in the gaps? Number 5, make sure that you ask, what questions they have, so you can get those tackled in that call. Okay. Now, you may come across a question in the call that it was going to require more time, or may require you getting back with them at a later time. That is totally fine. Okay. You just need to be very upfront and straightforward with them, like, hey, listen, that, it'll take us a little bit more time to tackle that question. Let's go ahead and open up our calendars and find another time and we can continue our conversation. Or I need to get that information, do some research and get back to you. I will be back to you by tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. with an answer. Whatever it is, just make sure that you have actually identified what their questions are and that you have a plan in place either to get them answered during that call or follow up with them and have them answered. Nothing is more frustrating for an investor to get on a call, spend 15, 20, 30 minutes with you, and then they haven't actually gotten their needs met. So you need to find out what those needs are and address them directly. And then number 6, wrap up. Okay, to wrap up one of these calls is, you identifying whether they actually are going to be a good investor for you in your investor club. Okay, so you can take this a few different ways. One, you're going to actually put them in your investor club. You're going to verify them as an investor, and then you're going to send them a follow-up email. And we'll talk about what goes in that follow-up email in a second. But you want to tell them, hey, listen, I'm going to send you my standard follow-up email. And in this email, I'll have X, Y, and Z. Now, what if you're, on the call with somebody and they actually aren't that great of a fit for your organization for one reason or another? Have an option to provide additional information. Maybe they're looking to do investment strategy that you don't have yet. Make sure you have people that you could refer to. Maybe a year ago we weren't doing car washes. We could possibly have a referral out for car washes or a referral out for ATM or oil and gas investing. So make sure you have referrals. Say they're not an accredited investor and you're only working with accredited investors. Have operators that love and trust and feel comfortable referring to that work with sophisticated investors. Or maybe just have a series of resources, maybe a blog article that you can point to on your website that you've written out that just helps a non-accredited or sophisticated investor jump to that next level of being accredited. What are some ways that they could invest in real estate until they get to that accredited level? Again, this is the whole point of the call, is for you to lead that investor through an experience. And even if they don't fit right neatly into your investor group right now, have a couple of different resources readily available, either in referrals or websites or articles you can point them to help them get their needs met. Because even you doing that, they are going to remember that experience and either come back to you when they're ready to invest or refer you to other people. All right. Now, I have a note here: set expectations throughout the call. Remember, keep track of your timing. For me, I make a mental note. If we haven't even moved to the part of the conversation where we're talking about our business within 12 minutes of me wrapping up, I know that I'm not going to be able to do a very good job about positioning our business. So I will make sure that, I have interjected in the conversation and just say, hey, I just want to make sure we leave plenty of time to answer your questions about passiveinvesting.com and how we can help you here before we need to wrap up today. So again, continue. It's okay to set expectations throughout that call. All right. Phase number 3, the post-call phase. That standard follow-up email is super important. Okay, I know a lot of operators, they have the call and that's it. They're done. Okay, they just say, hey, wait for a deal. We'll send it to you. Have a post-call wrap up with the investor. And you want to do this for a couple of different reasons. One, it just shows, again, you're leading them through an experience. Number 2, you can put additional information in their hands that you may not have actually gotten to tackle on the call that they can self-serve on now. And how I like doing my investor follow-up emails, I like including the information about the operators, the strategies that they're using, the track record, okay? The unique acronym that you see there, that always have something to invite people to offer. Maybe you do a weekly webinar or you have a podcast, whatever you can, continue to invite them to, have a link for them to register for that weekly contact that always have something to invite people to offer right there in that follow-up email. Okay, remember, they just got off the phone with you. They are happy, they're excited, they want to know more. Again, if you just had 4 very high touches with them. If you can get them into that weekly webinar, that's a 5th. They're just that much closer to completing that know, like, and trust triangle and investing with you. Make sure that if you're working with accredited investors, that you're sending them to where they can find your open deals. Okay. Don't let this, be like an enigma for them. Okay. Most investors, that's the link that they deeply desire. They want to know where your open deals are. Have like a short little synopsis. Okay. Keep it very high level, very brief. Maybe it's a document that you can link to. Maybe you can put in the body of the email, but what are the next specific steps for them to invest? Okay, how high level outline of what they should expect your investing process to look like. And then contact information. Are they respond if they have questions? Do they just hit reply and respond directly to you? Do they need to contact somebody else on the team? Okay, make sure that you're directing them to the right person to contact for questions. Now, in this standard follow-up email, you can send this through ActiveCampaign, okay, by adding a tag to the investor's file. You can have it simply as a Gmail template, okay, kind of like you can look up canned responses or not canned responses, Gmail templates on how to set one up. We use a system called Front, where we have templates set up that we can use company-wide, all right? Now, in this process, you might have found that there's some ad hoc items that you need to provide for the investor, like an article that you mentioned, or additional stats that they're looking for, additional contact information for. Make sure that you include in that email, the follow-up email, or a separate email, all of those follow-up items, and get them to them that day. Do not let that investor go more than 12 hours without having that information in their hands. So again, technology you would lever for this would be email, or you can utilize a virtual assistant to get them that information. But again, that's going to be feeding into that experience they have with you. And then the 4th phase is the nurture phase. Okay. So you've gone through, them having their initial experience on the landing page, how they're entering into your investor club, what information you're giving them beforehand and during the call, what information are you giving to them after, and then now it's time to continue to lead them through the nurture phase response. Okay, or excuse me, the nurture phase. Now you can choose to do this in several different ways or all of these ways, but do you have like a weekly or bi-weekly or a monthly newsletter? Okay, you can set that up in ActiveCampaign. This just keeps people educated about your business and top of mind of what's going on. Do you have and always have something to invite people to offer? Okay, that can be a weekly touch base with them. Okay, you can execute that in ActiveCampaign as well. Now, if you guys are confused, because I use that acronym a lot, always have something to invite people to offer, there's a book called Book Yourself Solid by Michael Port. That is an amazing book to kind of help you understand how to put together these type of offers. Do you have an investor onboarding sequence? Do you have specific training that you want to give them? Maybe you can even take your follow-up email and break this out into like small, like little video nuggets and drip that over a few days. But you can, again, have more touches with them that way. And then you're going to have your deal alert sequence. Okay, that can be launched, already in ActiveCampaign as well, or whatever you're using for CRM. Now, I do specifically encourage people, if you have VIP investors, or anybody that's investing $250,000 or more in a deal that you've identified, hand invite them to your deals. Okay. Again, that is just going to enrich the experience for that investor. All right, guys, we covered a lot today. If you've got any questions, it'd be a great time to drop them over in the chat box or the Q&A box. And if you want to see my process, you can go to passiveinvestingwithwhitney.com. You can you'll get to the end-to-end experience there. You'll get to see what the landing page looks like on the form, how it feeds right into the Calendly link. And if you're an investor and you want to see our open deals and learn more about passiveinvesting.com, you can check us out there. I would love to connect with you. And then guys, thanks so much. And I will hang out here for a few more minutes and clean up any questions that you guys might have.